All right, today what we're going to be talking about is comparing and interpreting lines. So we're taking everything we've talked about with slope, y-intercept, and equations, and now we're just comparing different situations. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at Carl, Mark, and Beth and their pools, and we're going to compare slope, y-intercept, and then certain values from it. So first, let's start with Carl's pool. This is his graph. Now, I want you to be careful. Watch what you're counting by. If you notice, we're counting by 1,000. So in this case, when you go down, you're actually going down 1,000. So don't just say 1. So be careful with that. And if you ever want to, you can just do your slope formula so you don't get confused by writing the ordered pairs. But I know I'm going down 1,000, but I'm counting by ones down here. So, and then I'm going to go plus 1 here. So my slope is negative 1,000 over positive 1, which just gives you negative 1,000 for a slope. So if we have to write an equation, your slope is 1,000, you do x, and your y-intercept is wherever it crosses the y-axis, which is at 10,000. So far so good. So this is Carl. And then for Mark, they gave us this table. So here they gave us a graph, here they gave us a table. So what we're going to do is we're going to find slope. So you could either go this way, which is what I did, and it's y over x, and that's going to give you negative 980, or you could do ordered pairs and do the slope formula that way. So we found this. Now we could go backwards by subtracting 2, and we could go backwards by adding 1,960, or you could just plug it in and solve. Either way works, however you did that. What I did was I took an ordered pair, and again, I just picked that one because it's a little bit easier numbers to work with. So I did 8,080 equals 980, which we said was the slope, times 4, which is your x, plus b. And then once you solve for that, you're going to get b equals 12,000. So if we would have added, we would have landed at 12,000, and this would have been 0. So either way, however you did it, works. So our equation here is negative 980x plus 12,000. All right, so that's for Mark. Now let's look. Beth was easy. They gave us an equation, but we just have to put it into slope-intercept form. So we're going to move the x over. That cancels out, and I'm left with 2y equals negative 1,600x plus 18,000. And then I'm going to divide each term by 2. And I'm going to end, so that simplifies. I'm going to get y, and I'll get negative 800x plus 900. And then now, oops, I forgot to finish writing my equation. And I forgot a 0. There you go. Okay, so you should have y equals negative 800x plus 9,000. So now all I did was I put all this information up here, and I just put it into the table from there. So remember, your y-intercept is your b value. And then the only other thing we said was do your x-intercept. So we said your x-intercept is when your y equals 0. So all I did was I took our equation, and I did 0 equals negative 980x plus 12,000. And you're going to move this over by subtracting. And then you're going to end up getting, divide both sides by negative 980. And you're going to end up getting x equals 12.4. I did the same thing for Beth, where I said 0 equals negative 800x plus 9,000. And I ended up getting x equals 11.5. And for Carl, same thing. I said 11,000x plus 10,000. and I got x equals 10. So now that we have all this information, now we can compare. So which pool started with more water? So you're going to look at the y value, which is your b. So if you were to look at this, Mark's pool actually ended up having the most water to start. And then it says which pool drains faster. So if you're looking at draining faster, you're looking at the slope, which is the m. And so which one has more? So that would be Carl, because if you look here, Carl's number has the most going in that amount of time. Now, which one took the longest to drain? Now, if you were to look, the longest would have been your x-intercept. So for that, Mark also got that category because he had the largest out of all of them. So it took him a long time for it to drain. All right, so now for this one, we're just going to look at comparing your slope. So it says, which has a greater rate of change? Well, remember, rate of change and slope are similar. So we've got A, which is an equation with these intercepts. So all I did was I plotted those. As I said, -2, 0, and 0, 5. And I just found the slope of 5 over 2. So, because that's all we're looking for, we don't need the equation. So I said that was 2.5. And then here, looking at the equation, remember your slope's always multiplied by x, so your slope is 2. So I just compared them. I said 2.5 and 2. Well, 2.5 is bigger, so therefore, this has a greater rate of change. All right, now let's look here. Now we're going to start putting some things together. And we got this equation. And it's cost to take an aerobics class. So it's cost per class. Michaela has $62 already. How many more dollars does Michaela need to take 7 classes? So first, we need to make sure we set up the equation, which we have here. Let's plug in what we need. So we need to take 7 classes. So classes is your x value. And so we substituted that in and we got y equals 74.50. So this is if she were to take 7 classes. So if she has 7 classes, she needs 74.50. But she already has 62. So now we're going to take that amount and subtract $62 from it. It's going to be $12.50. So she needs $12.50 more for her classes. All right, and this one is Mike's Doggy Daycare. He charges 50 cents per minute and a $5 initial fee. So since it said cost per minute, I know my cost is my y and minutes are the x. So Mike's equation is right here, and it gave us all that information. But Michelle, we have to figure it out. So we have to make ordered pairs. Once you make ordered pairs, then you can find slope in the equation. So I made $9 for 6 minutes. So we said dollars was y, and we said minutes was x. So I made my ordered pair for the first part, and then it said $14 for 11 minutes. So I made my ordered pair that way. So now that you've got your 2 ordered points, now we can find slope. So this is your m. And I did 9 minus 14. And then since I started with 9, I have to start with 6. And then I got -5 over -5. Even if you did it the other way, we're still going to get a slope of 1. Now that I know my slope is 1, now I'm going to plug in either ordered pair. I'll do that one because it's smaller numbers. And I'm going to subtract 6. I've got 3 equals b. So now b is your y-intercept. So we said this is your slope, this is your y-intercept. We're putting it together in an equation. So we've got an equation for Mike, and we've got an equation for Michelle. Now we want to know in how many minutes will they be the same. So if they're the same, you're going to equal them to each other. So here, this is Mike. And this is Michelle. And we want to know when are they going to be equal to each other. So that's all I did was plug it in and solve for x, move the x over. Oops. So that cancels out, and I've got 5 equals 0.5x plus 3. And then now let's move your number over here. You could have done this the other way too, as long as you got a variable one side, numbers on the other. And so I've got 2 equals 0.5x. Divide both sides by 5x because by 5 because we want to get x by itself. That cancels out. And I've got x equals 4. And that's your answer. All right, so now we're going to compare rate of change. So it's giving us all this information and we're going to look at it. Well, here it's Angela. Ben is this equation up here. So Angela's, again, watch what we're counting by, because when we go up, you're actually going up 20. And then here, watch what you're counting by. You're actually going over 200. So for Angela, her slope, Angela's slope is y over x. Okay, so we know that hers, if you enter this in on the calculator, you would put 0.01. And then Ben, it's super easy, it's just 0.15. Now, for the initial value, that's your B. So for B, Angela is at 60. And then Ben, his B is 49. So now that we've got that, we can put both our equations together. So Angela is here, Ben is here. And we want to know if they each talk for 200 minutes this month, what would the cost be? So 200 is your X, because that's what we have right here, is minutes are X, cost is Y. So I just plugged in 200 for your for Angela's equation. And then for Ben's equation, plugged in 200. So Angela is 80, Ben is 79. So whose plan is cheaper, meaning they spent less money? So that would be Ben. So it's just plugging in what you know, making an equation. All right, so what you're going to do is you have some different examples. Which one has a greater rate of change? So that's your slope. So you have to put both of these in y equals mx plus b. And then which one has a greater y-intercept? So you need to figure out the y-intercept for both. And then for this one, you have this equation and you have this table. So we want to know the value of the y-intercept. Both the y-intercepts are subtracted. So you need to find b1 minus b2. So you're subtracting your two y-intercepts. All right. So it's a lot to do, but this is all stuff we've done before. We're just putting it all together and comparing the slopes, y-intercepts, and equations of the lines.